that they started a farm in California. Today, Ecke Ranch remains a major supplier to the United States and the world. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
English Agriculture Report. Food prices continue to rise, threatening to push more people into poverty and hunger. Experts have been urging increased efforts around the world to increase agricultural productivity. A new report by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says one of the best ways would be to remove the barriers women farmers face that male farmers do not. Women farmers are often less productive than men, but there are good reasons for that, says Agnes Quisenbing. She is an economist with the International Food Policy Research Institute. She says women farmers have fewer resources than male farmers. The new FAO report says women make up 43% of the world's farmers, but only about 10 to 20% of them own the land they farm. Without owning land, it is harder for them to get credit to buy inputs such as better seeds and fertilizers. In many countries, women are half as likely as men to use fertilizers to increase the amount of crops. In addition, Ms. Quisenbing says many of the world's women are raising their children at the same time they are farming. The FAO report says helping women farmers could increase agricultural output in the developing world by as much as 4%. This in turn could reduce the number of undernourished people by as much as 17%. Ms. Quisenbing says just helping women farmers have the same resources that male farmers have would do a lot to improve agricultural productivity and reduce hunger and malnutrition. Ms. Quisenbing helped write the FAO report. She says the report does not try to gain sympathy. It makes the case for women farmers based on business reasons. She says governments should support programs that help women farmers. These include financial support to help them buy better seeds and fertilizers. But she says policies in many countries also need to change. She says many laws discriminate against women in the areas of property, labor force, and marriage. Ms. Quisenbing says studies show that women are more likely than men to spend money on food, health, and educating their children. And that means a better future for the next generation. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. You can find transcripts and MP3s of our reports at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook at VOA Learning English.
This is the Agriculture Report in Special English. Agriculture produces a lot of the greenhouse gases that scientists link to rising temperatures and climate change. Agriculture can also be hurt by the effects of climate change. A new report says high temperatures and unpredictable weather are disrupting agriculture in many parts of the world. The report is called Innovations in Sustainable Agriculture, Supporting Climate-Friendly Food Production. the World Watch Institute in Washington published it. The report suggests ways that the agriculture industry could reduce its effects on the environment. Danielle Nierenberg was one of the report's authors. She says industrial agriculture uses a lot of fossil fuels. She says the chemicals used in fertilizers, pesticides, and transportation depend on fossil fuels. Danielle Nierenberg says animal production has an especially big effect on the environment. She notes that the amount of meat being eaten in countries like Brazil, China, and India is growing. As a result, more industrial animal facilities or factory farms are being built in the developing world. Those big farms need fossil fuels to operate. They also require long-distance transportation. She said all those things can contribute to climate change. The report recommends 6 land and water use practices that it says are sustainable. These include growing trees on farmland to reduce soil erosion and planting cover crops to make soil less affected by drought, heat, and pests. Other recommended practices include recycling wastewater in cities, drip irrigation, and replacing chemical with natural fertilizer. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
Agriculture report. When is a plant considered a weed? Experts at Penn State University have a simple answer: when the undesirable qualities outweigh the good qualities. Consider that crops generally produce several hundred seeds from each plant. By comparison, each weed plant can produce tens or even hundreds of thousands of seeds, and some buried seeds can survive up to 40 years or even longer. Eradicating weeds means that you have to remove all the seeds and roots so the plants will not grow back. But birds or the wind can reintroduce them to the land. A more common way to deal with weeds is to control them enough so that the land can be used for planting. Experts advise using 2 or more control methods to deal with weeds. Chemical weed killers or natural treatments like corn gluten can suppress weed growth. Dense planting of a crop can also act as a natural control. Bill Curran at Penn State in University Park, Pennsylvania, is a professor of weed science. He says one of the most common methods for suppressing weeds is dense planting. He says a dense, competitive crop that quickly shades the soil will help suppress many weeds. The seeds need light to grow, so blocking the sun will reduce weed growth. Other controls include turning over the soil, pulling the weeds, or covering them with mulch made of wood, garden waste, or other material. But even mulch has its limits. Natural resource specialists point out that weeds can be transported in mulch. This is also true of soil, grain, hay, and animals. Yet, animals like sheep or goats eat weeds, so they can provide a biological control. Insects and other organisms can also act as biological controls. Preventing the spread of weeds is an important part of weed management. Farm vehicles should be kept out of areas with weeds. If that is not possible, then clean off the equipment and your shoes when leaving.